This is Glambition Radio, episode number 252 with Ellen Bennett, founder and CEO of Hedley Bennett.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Glambition Radio.
Glambition Radio.
Glambition Radio.
Glambition Radio.
Glambition Radio.
Glambition Radio.
Welcome to Glambition Radio. I am your host, Allie Brown. I'm an entrepreneur, mentor, investor, and founder of The Trust, the modern premier network for 7- and 8-figure women leaders. I love thinking big, doing different, and exploring ideas that disrupt the status quo, especially when it comes to women, because we are creating the new models for leadership, business success, making money, and changing the world. And hey, we're doing it with style. So let's go. Hello. I am back from Florida. We had a fantastic meeting for The Trust. Most of our members joined us. We had our special guest advisor, Kara Golden, fly in to spend the morning with us on day 2. And man, we are all just thinking bigger, doing bigger, and we are looking for a few more extraordinary women leaders to join us for the rest of the year. I'm going to be hosting a private informational call on Thursday, April 15th at 1 p.m. Eastern. And if you are in the 7- or 8-figure range for your business currently and you're curious, you want to come hear more, I'm going to be on this call with you, walking you through everything The Trust includes, this new network of women leaders, entrepreneurs, change makers who are looking for a little something different, a network that's keeping up with the times. And I'm excited to announce that we were so jacked up to get together, we didn't want to wait until the fall, which was our next official meeting. So we're going to have a pop-up gathering on May 18th here in Phoenix. So, a lot of great stuff's happening along with all the virtual programming that we have online. So take a look at that. jointhetrust.org/private invitation. Quick shout out to 2 great reviews my team pulled from me from Apple Podcasts. The first is from Camille Camelot, superb podcast. I've been listening to Allie's podcast for some time now, and I absolutely love it. I feel both grounded and uplifted by every episode, and I thoroughly enjoy the fascinating conversations Allie has with her guests. Allie, your podcast is a gift to women, entrepreneurs everywhere. And the next is Nutrient Dense. I like that. 5 stars by Patsy PJ from the US. What you consume matters, whether it's food for your body or food to fuel your passion and purpose. Glambition Radio never disappoints. The guests and conversations keep me focused, inspired, and aligned. P.S. I'm the opposite of glam, so I was skeptical, but there's no fluff here. Allie has that rare quality of someone you've known, loved, and trusted forever. Thank you. And I know what you mean about the name. I still have fun with it. We tell people that, it's a fun name, but we have very intelligent conversations. So thank you so much for doing that and for taking the time. And in the next week or 2, I'm going to be announcing how by your simply just leaving a review, you can get one of these beautiful journals we have had created. I have a whole box here to mail out. We'll give you all the details on that coming up. It's our way of saying thank you for taking the time to leave a great review, because it does help new people discover and trust the show. Now, I can't wait for you to meet this woman I'm about to introduce right now. Ellen Bennett is founder and CEO of Hedley Bennett. And you may not know her name, but you've likely seen her aprons on the chefs of the top cooking shows. And I love this story. Do you know when you see an idea out there and you think, why doesn't someone do this? Why hasn't someone done a better version of that? Why hasn't anyone thought of this? Well, she just did it. And what it was after working at some of the top restaurants in the LA area, she realized that they were all wearing shockingly poor quality uniforms. And without any experience in getting things like these made, she figured it out step by step. And today, Hedley Bennett provides workwear and gear to outfit over 6,000 restaurants, hotels, coffee shops, resorts, and hundreds of thousands of home cooks now the world over. You're going to hear about their transition last year. When they saw the restaurant shutdowns come in, they're like, you know what? A lot more people are going to be baking at home. That's definitely here. That's why I'm trying to hit the gym more because we were definitely in the kitchen more over the last year. And I realized, I need an apron. So you're going to enjoy this story, but I think my favorite part is when she tells us about her 200-pound pet pig. So get ready for a great conversation with Ellen Bennett. Ellen, I'd like to know where you are right now.
I am in Los Angeles, California.
How has LA been over the last year? I mean, it looks like a wild ride.
Weird and wild, absolutely. I think the news always accentuates it more than it actually is, but no, it's definitely been a wonky, crazy ass year, as most people's lives have been.
Yeah, and especially your industry. Do you want to share a bit about that?
Totally. So my company, Hedley and Bennett, is rooted in the restaurant world. So you can imagine that last year was a crazy one for us. And we were already leaning pretty heavily into direct to consumer, but COVID just made us go all the way to direct to consumer and not be totally reliant on just restaurants. But yeah, it was a pretty intense shift from having started my company as a primarily B2B business, making uniforms, aprons, chef coats, et cetera, for professional restaurants and really great gear that didn't suck. And as the years went by, we started making more and more things for really famous chefs. They would wear it on TV. People would recognize our little red ampersand, the little and symbol on our chest. That's like our copyright, our logo. And people wanted it. And so you'd see it in our SEO searches like ampersand apron, red patch apron. I want to find the apron that Martha Stewart Yeah. So those were our mega roots to the restaurant world.
I love that. When we first met, we're both part of the EY Winning Women program. Yep. So I always like to give that a shout out because that's how we connected. And I remember I was at that wild event, the Strategic Growth Forum in Palm Springs. And I think it was the 80s party that I finally was able to grab you. And I think I was a few drinks in. I'm not sure if you were at that point.
Yeah.
And I was like, your story's awesome. Like, we have to get you on the show. And then we just kept like kind of missing each other. And then now you have a book coming out.
Yeah.
So, gosh, but before I have so many things I want to ask. I want to get into your story and more about the evolution of the business. But do you mind if we dive right into the book and why you wanted to come out with more of something really helpful about your story, but also for people starting a business?
Yeah, totally. So the book is called Dream First, Details Later. And I think that the title says it all. It's for people that are really they get stuck in the overthinking of things. And a lot of times in life, opportunities present themselves and you have to be willing to make that leap of faith in that moment with not a lot of time and just trust that you're going to make the landing. And the entire book is my journey of how I've done that multiple times. And I've earned what I call like notches on my confidence belt. And you could say it's a memoir, but really it's a no bullshit like guide to just doing things and how I did things that led me to other things. And it's just a giant ripple effect versus the latter, which is standing on the edge of life, staring in, thinking about everything that could possibly go wrong, or maybe I'll do it later, or maybe I need to secure funding and I need to do 1,900 things before I can do this other thing. I am more of the thought process of, you know what? Just say fuck it and start.
Yeah.
And that is the entire book is about that.
That could have been the title. The F word in titles is too trendy.
Yeah, there's actually our publisher was like, there's too many books out there with the word fuck. So no, you can't do that.
Have you always been this way?
It's a great question. I have, since I was fairly young, my parents got divorced and I kind of looked around at my life when I was like literally 8 or 9 years old. And I said, you know what? They've got some shit going on. I better start figuring out what I want to do with my own life and start walking and like find my path. And, being raised by a single mother who worked all day long, it was like me at home with my little sister. And I just realized that I needed to start. So I think that circumstance led me to being a little bit more that way. But I believe that we all have different circumstances that are not ideal that actually make us stronger. And if you turn those circumstances into your own superpowers, you're that much stronger versus thinking about those situations as like, woe is me. I'm a victim of the thing that happened to my life. I like to think about it as like, nope, that's a notch up because guess what? I earned resilience and grit because of that thing that happened to me.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about the cook and the cooking and your love of the kitchen and the evolution of the business. Can you go through the story with us?
Totally. So when I was 18, 19, I decided to move to Mexico City. I went to culinary school there, was there for a few years. And then I came back to the States and ran around Los Angeles trying to get a job at different of the best restaurants here and a bunch of different ones. And I ended up getting a job at Providence, which is a 2 Michelin Star spot. It was amazing, incredible experience.
I must not know about that because maybe when I lived in LA, I couldn't afford it. I'm not sure. Where is that?
It's on Melrose, very fancy, like $600 a person type of a place.
That would be why. Okay.
Yeah. It was, believe me, I couldn't afford to eat
scrappy.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. Got it.
So we were using the best ingredients, the best of everything, literally everything. And I couldn't believe how shitty our uniforms were, how everybody looked and felt kind of like not great in the kitchen. And yet we were athletes. We were going into battle every night every time we went into dinner service and cooking all these insane meals. And I wanted to do something about it. I wanted to make an apron and gear that made you feel and look the part. And very much like runners have proper gear when they go and run outside. It's like, why can't chefs and restaurant people have great uniforms?
And no one had done this?
No. So
Is it one of those ideas that like,
yeah, it's like a Post-it. It's like a Post-it. You just don't think about it, but there it is staring you in the face.
But we all have those things that, and let this inspire those of you listening. Like, it was kind of like, we all have those things like, why hasn't someone done blank? It's so obvious that would do so well, but then you really did it.
Yeah. And so I did it. And by the way, when I did, people were like, that's cute. Good luck with that like cute idea. And I had no funding of any kind. It was just really me and my thoughts, me, myself, and I. And so I started out of my house in a very grassroots fashion and built my community street by street, chef by chef, talking to people, learning from them, asking them what they needed, and being very collaborative, not claiming I had all the answers because I didn't. I needed them to tell me what was wrong with the gear. And so we built our first designs in that way and just continued to grow the business through restaurant accounts. So we were outfitting, hundreds of restaurants and then thousands of restaurants. And while all of this was happening, this like naturally direct to consumer business was blooming behind the scenes on our website. So people would see our product on a famous chef like David Chang or Martha Stewart, and then they would try and go find who was making the gear that they were wearing. And it was us. And so we were like the designers making this gear, and we were using amazing quality materials and just like focusing on form and function and being timeless, not just like one hit wonder. This is a great marketing campaign, but the product sucks. Like the product is actually really fantastic. And that led to a lot of loyal fans. And then people started buying it online. And then the company continued to grow. And then we realized, you know what, like there's so many fun opportunities with collaborations. So why don't we try to do collaborations with cool brands that are outside the cooking world? So then we teamed up with Vans. We did a collab with Madewell. We did something with Parachute Home. And this kept like spreading that Hedley and Bennett ethos and like hustling belief of having great gear for all kinds of people, like out into the world. Meanwhile, still self-funded, still running it myself and like bootstrapping it and trying to figure out how the company would grow and grow and grow. And so my book is very much about that journey, that it's not a perfect straight shot. Whether or not you go to business school, whether or not you have investors, like the journey is a bumpy one and it's crazy and it's wild. And you have to have so much grit and resilience to birth something out of nothing, especially when you don't have resources to start with. And yet I'm still standing here telling you this. And as a 33-year-old Mexican American woman raised by a single mother, I mean, I'm proud of sharing my story because it's not your typical one. It is not like, oh, I then raised $50 million and that's why I'm here today. It's like, no, I'm here because I was able to survive and persevere all these different shit storms along the way and pivot and adjust and adapt. And my company grew despite all the shit storms. And if I can do it, you absolutely can do it too. And like, that is the name of the game, is the attitude that I want to embody and like give to people.
Was there ever a moment, and you may hate this question, but I'm sorry, I have to ask, was there ever a moment that you're thinking, this, I don't have what this takes, or, this is way out of my league, or I don't have maybe we're going to have to shut down. Was there any moments like that you could share for those people going through something like that right now?
Yeah, 100%. All the time, by the way, like all the freaking time. You literally don't know what you're going to walk into on any given day. And there was a time when we have a big 16,000 square foot factory here in LA, and I had taken it on with somebody else, one of our other sewing vendors, so that we could share the building, and we would pay them the rent and they would pay the landlord. And one day out of the blue, a couple months before Q4 hit, we got an eviction. We were served an eviction notice by like a lawyer. And we almost got evicted because we had been paying someone who hadn't been paying our landlord. So like things like that happened, like not all the time, but absolutely frequently enough that it made an impact and caused severe heartburn. And you just, in those moments, you're like, the world is ending. But also, by the way, if you're still here and you're still alive, you still have a shot to get out of it. And I find that we are a lot more resilient than we think we are. Hello, COVID 2020. Like, never in a million years would we have thought that any of us would have survived that, let alone our businesses. And yet here we are. And so you just have to like take a fucking beat and not just throw in the towel at the first sign of something's going south. Like you just persevere forward and find a way and know that you can. And, there are times to throw in the towel, but I knew instinctively in my heart of hearts that that was not the time to throw in the towel. And, I'm grateful because I then was able to take over the entire lease of the whole building. And I'm grateful for the person that signed the lease, even if they ran off with our money, because I wouldn't have gotten the building in the first place if he hadn't been there. So I just consider it a staircase step on the journey to get me closer to where I was headed. And it wasn't perfect, but it rarely is.
Yeah. I would not want to be on the wrong side of you, Annalise. I just don't think I'd want to mess with you. I'm just kidding. I don't know you that well, but I don't think I'd want to, cross you.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, you're not taking me or the zip line that we installed in your building.
I'm going to go back because I'm fascinated with getting, when people have a new product, getting it in the hands of people that they know could be of influence, in a way that is very authentic. Right. And so you said that you immediately identified great chefs, people on TV. Tell us a bit about the strategies that you use that for people with products that you recommend, and maybe some you don't recommend that didn't work.
Yeah. I would call the strategy a very simple, basic one. Don't make people feel like a transaction. Do not approach people with a dollar figure in your eyeballs when you're talking to them. Like, people smell that a mile away. And so if you're approaching someone that could genuinely use your services and will benefit from it, you can talk about your product with humble enthusiasm. And that is an entire chapter in the book. It's called Humble Enthusiasm, and how to talk about things with people and get them excited about what you're doing without making them feel like you are hustling them in a bad way. Because truthfully, if Allie, I was like, okay, Allie is my sister, I'm going to talk to you differently than the way that maybe somebody at Ralph's is going to talk to you, right? Because you're at Ralph's, you're a customer and you're there to find the thing that you need. And so I always say, no, you talk to somebody like you talk to your sister or your mom or your friend or your neighbor. Make it very comfortable and human. So that was a really just kind of core, I wouldn't even call it a tactic. It was just simply what I did. That was my approach. And it worked for me because I made friends along the way. first. And then later they became my customers. And to this day, a lot of them are still around. And it's something that I've shared with my team as the company has continued to grow and I'm no longer, on our sales team.
So tell us though, can you give an example? Like, would you walk into some restaurant and say, I want to
Yeah.
talk to the chef. I have some questions for him, or I have a product, or give us a little more context.
Totally. So, a lot of chefs would be at food events, big food events like Food and Wine or Aspen Food and Wine. And so I would go to those events and then I would meet a bunch of people there. And then I would introduce myself like in the sea of people of like, hey, I would see if maybe they were already wearing Hedley and Bennett, but they didn't know who we were, or maybe they were wearing another apron, and I'd find something to talk about with them. I'd be like, oh, I love your restaurant. I've been a few times. It's so rad. And they'd be like, oh, thank you so much. Where are you from? I'm like, oh, I have this company called Hedley and Bennett. We make aprons. We're based out of LA. I work at Providence with Michelin Star. And they'd be like, oh, that's so cool. That's awesome. Well, here's my card if you ever want to reach out. And I'd be like, yeah, totally. If you ever need anything from H&B land, like here, or I would say like, we're actually working on some new designs. I'd love to get your input on what you think. And I'd do it in a very like casual fashion. And then they'd be like, okay, yeah, awesome. Let me know and reach out. And then I would reach out and then I would set up a time. But it was very genuinely collaborative. I wanted to hear their input. I wanted to get their thoughts on the product. And that really helped establish that core audience because they weren't just buying something. They were actually contributing to how that product was going to exist in the world in the future. So the buy-in was there. And then I would custom make it to match whatever they wanted. And eventually those custom designs became part of our like core collection.
Cool. So it was it was just real. You were just doing you, weren't you?
Yeah, I was doing me, but like if you wanted to kind of quantify how that is, it's a combination of being willing to listen, really truly listen, right? Because sometimes you talk to salespeople and they just are not fucking listening to you. They are just rattling off things at you versus looking at you as a person. So it's like, be human, right? Have a genuine connection of some sort. Find something to talk about that's like interesting to both parties, and don't treat anybody like a transaction. Like those are the core kind of tenets of it, and go to places where those people are typically roaming around and be generous with your product. Meaning there were certain chefs that I knew that if they got one of my aprons, that they would 100% use another one because the product was so great. And so I would be selective because I didn't have a ton of resources to just be handing product out left, right, and center. Right. But I would share my product with people and tell them about it with humble enthusiasm. So I wasn't bragging about it. I was actually just telling them how excited I was about something we were making that could help them too.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And I want to go back. It's interesting you said this year you pivoted to consumer because this was the first year I think I ever put on an apron.
Totally. You and millions of other people.
I never even thought of that till right now. Like literally, I think I had an old one hanging in the closet or the pantry. And I'm like, this year I'm home with the kids and I'm like, well, yeah, this could be, remember when in the beginning, this almost seemed like, yeah, we're going to all let's all bake and it was almost like kind of fun for that month that like we're all together and we're looking for projects.
Totally. Everyone is making sourdough.
Yeah. 2 weeks to flatten the curve, and then we're baking the whole year. I'm still baking. The kids are still home. And what a great time though, to pivot to consumer because it's so smart because now suddenly the gift in that for me is I'm so involved now in what we're eating again and creating our food and going to the farmer's market on the weekends and having my hands on things that came from the earth. And I just realized my apron does not match my new attitude about excellence.
Your new lifestyle. We need to fix that. Hedley and Bennett.
Yeah.
That happen. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't even realize you could order your aprons consumer. If you told me earlier, I lost track of that.
Yep. So now our consumer audience, that's 80% of our business and it's our fastest growing channel by a lot. And so through COVID, the same realization that you just had, a lot of people did too. It's also an amazing gift and we make them for kids and adults and it's an heirloom. Like it is going to last you forever. And they're so well fitting and they look nice and they're cool and you hang them. And it's just like, it becomes the gesture that you do to say, I am commencing this activity. Like I am beginning to cook and it's official. It's legit. It's proper, like apron on, let's do this, kind of like yoga pants on, let's do this.
Right.
Same idea. So it's become a huge driver for our company. And we have a very active TikTok and Instagram, and we're just constantly putting out recipes and reels and all kinds of things so that people are engaging with us in the kitchen.
Before I forget, let's tell people where to get the book, because I have so many questions for you, but I don't want to be skimming over that. So let's talk about where they can get the book. Let's give your website again, also where they can order the aprons and everything.
So the website is hedleyandbennett.com. That's HEDLEYANDBENNETT, hedleyandbennett.com. And then you can follow me on Ellen Marie Bennett on Instagram and Hedley and Bennett. And then you can get a link. If you go to our website at the top, there's a little bar and we created a whole apron collection with the book. That's awesome. And so you can get the book and the apron there, or you just type in Dream First Details Later onto literally Google. And Amazon, Barnes and Noble, every independent bookstore you can think of, they all appear right there. And right now we're in the pre-order stage, which is super important for book sales. So definitely pre-order it so that you can get it the minute it goes live.
I love the new, was it called the Santa Fe? It's your desert collection.
Yeah. Yep.
Love that. Love the colors. It's very Arizona where I live.
Super fun. Yes. And we did an apron with Jesse Tyler Ferguson, who also just launched a cookbook. I'm not a cookbook, and it's funny. Him and I have been writing our books at basically the same time for the last 2.5 years. So it's cool to have his cookbook launch with an apron with us. And then a month later, my book launches. A lot of books in my life this year.
Okay. And I don't know if this question also irritates you, but here we go. The pig. Can we talk about the pig?
Oh my God. No, that doesn't bother me at all. That's my child.
Do you love the pig? Okay.
I love the pig. Of course.
Ellen has a pet pig. Let's be clear. Named Oliver.
Yep. Oliver.
Who I'm now following on Instagram.
Good.
By the way, your pig has more followers than some. Can you tell us how you came to be in possession of a pet pig?
Oliver has been in our lives for almost 6 years. He is 200 pounds and he sleeps inside on our couch every night. He's totally potty trained, very clean, super smart. I thought he would be like 80 pounds and he just kept growing. He snores all day. He sleeps most of the day, and his hooves have to get trimmed by a vet, like a horse vet, every 4 months. So that's the only awkward thing about being
you can't take him to like the VCA, the local vet people.
Nope.
Okay.
We lost that train sailed by a long time ago. So that is how Oliver is in our lives. And it's awesome. I love it. And we also have 7 chickens. So it's a whole zoo out here.
But how did the pig happen? Like, did you say, I want to get a pig?
100%. It's funny. In the book, there's a little section on it. It's called Vitamixing. I Vitamixed the pig, meaning I like manifested him into existence. I just decided I wanted to get a pig, and I desperately was trying to figure out how to get one. And then all of a sudden, like the stars aligned, and Oliver was a gift. Somebody gave him to me.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, I do believe that most things in life start with a decision, and then you put it out there into the universe, and then life kind of like aligns itself with action, followed up by your own action, and the thing happens. So
I don't think I've ever pet a pig. So is he kind of like a big hot water bottle, or is he furry? I can't see.
Water bottle. He's like a Brillo pad. He's very scratchy.
Bristly.
So
okay.
Very bristly. He sits on as I said, he sleeps on our couch. So I'll sit on the couch next to him to watch TV, and he literally pricks me through my pants. Like his little hairs are just like poking at me because they're so thick.
Poor guy. He probably just wants to cuddle, and he can't get too cuddly.
Yeah.
Okay. I just love that. And so now I'm following the pig. And I'm not going to let my kids see that because they will want one, because the one fish we had left just died.
Oh,
and now there's this gap, but I think they've forgotten about it. So I'm just kind of riding that out because It's kind of nice as a mom to like be without pets for a change, you know?
Yeah, exactly. You just give them an apron and say, there's a lady I know that has a pet pig and here's the apron and wear it and just distract them.
It's just about the apron, So Ellen, to wrap up, can you share 3 great pieces of advice for all the women listening around the world?
1, you are stronger than you think always. And if you think you've hit your max capacity, chances are very high that you actually have more bandwidth and more ability to keep going. Take every single opportunity, turn every single failure into an opportunity and really like use it to light the fire under you to keep going. Like don't ever stand there and say like, well, I don't have this or that. Remember, you are the driver of your own life car and you are in charge. So you need to just remember that you're in that driver's seat and drive the damn car. Like stop being on the side of the road. Just keep going. Keeping going is better than staying still, right? So forward progress is always the name of the game. And I would say that when things look dark, just know that if you persevere, you are now giving yourself an opportunity to shift the outcome of your future. And I think about COVID a lot because of that. And, I pivoted so hard at the beginning of COVID and our entire business model changed because of it. And yet, if I had not done that, our business would not exist right now. And it was terrifying. It was scary, but I took that leap of faith and I did it anyway. And we've come out the other end so much stronger than ever before. So also just know that if you've built something once, you can build it again. And you just have to be willing to let go of things when things are not right. The playbook of life blew up when COVID hit and I let go of it. And I just decided to write a new chapter. And I did that. And it was very successful for us. So just all of the above equals grit, resilience. Just keep fucking going. You've got this.
We're so much stronger on the other side. I'm going to echo what a few of my clients and I have been saying, and that, now we're truly built for all seasons.
Literally.
You throw most anything at us now. And we know how to, I'm sick of the word pivot, but to make those shifts and change, or like you'd have now different income streams and different ways of shifting, like on demand, right?
Absolutely.
If things happen. And so let me give a plug for the book again. So it's Dream First, Details Later. I think it's so important because women, especially in my observation, tend to overthink things a little bit more. I'm generalizing, but generally we do.
Yeah.
And you're such a great example of that, Ellen, and just cheers for what you do. I can't wait to order some of the aprons and I can't wait to get the book.
Thank you so much for having me. Yes, go out there and buy Dream First, Details Later, How to Quit Overthinking It and Make It Happen. The full
Thank you.
Gigantic title. Thank you, Allie. You are amazing.
Thanks, hon. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of Glambition Radio. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you subscribe so you automatically get my new shows every week. Also, I'd love if you left us a review so more women like you can discover us. We're on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Pandora, and other major platforms. And I'd love to hear from you personally. Come join the conversation on social. Instagram is my happy place lately, and that's Allie Brown Official, but you can find links to my other platforms at alliebrown.com. Glambition Radio is the elevated conversation for women leaders, and I'm honored you tuned in.